Say it with me, everyone. Vinland Saga is anime of the season. I think 5 episodes deep into this series, it's clear as day that this is definitely one of the best series that Summer of Anime 2019 has to offer, and Wit Studios is really just knocking it out of the park this year in terms of the anime they are making. This is just an absolutely glorious anime. Episode 5 really concretes the fact that we don't need fours to have a good story. Even though it is sad to lose such a character, to lose an amazing character like Fours that really just shined as a bright star throughout the first 3 to 4 episodes, it's nice to see that Thorfinn is able to hold his own as the MC of the story and kind of see where his journey is going to go and how he may one day avenge his father, but also become a great warrior and maybe learn the exact same thing that his father knew. So, to get right into it, this episode of Vinland Saga, episode 5 to be exact, is absolutely beautiful. Like, I don't take any credit for this screenshot you guys are seeing because someone else made it, they just gave it to me on Twitter, but this just perfectly represents the beauty of this episode. These are all background shots, the scenery of this episode, and just you can see the beauty, the detail that the animators and the people that worked on the art went into to do stuff like this. It really shows they went the extra mile, and it makes me incredibly happy to see this because I have taken a glance at the manga in terms of artwork, the beauty of the art, and the art is just astounding. Like, if you really look at the artwork of Vinland Saga's manga, it really is high tier. Like I said many times before when I first reviewed this series for the first impressions of the anime, I've heard about this series through many that it's on par with, you know, let's say Berserk or Vagabond. It is a well-known series, highly regarded as one of the best manga, and so I knew that for a fact the art was beautiful. When I glanced at the art, it was exactly what I thought it was and what I was told, and when you see the beauty of these screenshots, the background images of this episode, it shows that they are not just making the characters look beautiful, but also the backgrounds. And Wit Studio usually has a really good track record with this. Like, the people that work in Wit Studios that works on their individual shows and stuff, usually have a good track record with the stuff they work on, even if they do have production issues. Overall, usually their anime turns out to be really good. So, I'm just glad to see, you know, Vinland Saga getting the respect it deserves, and finally seeing a seinen manga getting a proper adaptation, animation, all of that, because it's just so rare nowadays to see something like this properly animated, or usually it's kind of like butchered, and it just people are like, I don't want to watch this. The only thing that, you know, this series has kind of going against it, honestly, is the fact that Amazon has it, which is by no means a problem for me, because I still watch it there, but there's many that don't like to, you know, as I've said many times in the past, have multiple subscriptions. You don't want to have, let's say, Crunchyroll, you don't want to have Funimation, Hulu, etc., all in one, and then Amazon on top of that to watch your anime. And so, the thing I think that's hurting this series the most is that it's on Amazon, and I think out of all of the different subscription services you could get to watch anime, I think Amazon is the least popular, even though they usually grab some really good shows throughout each individual season. So okay, let's get into this episode. Sorry about that. Let's talk about the content. So episode 5's content is pretty much Thorfinn trying to learn how to use a sword and build up the strength to eventually avenge his father against Askeladd that, you know, took him out in the previous episode. Now, it was very obvious that Thorfinn was going to want vengeance. He was going to want to get, you know, vengeance against the very people that hurt him. But as I talked about in the previous episode review, even though Askeladd and his crew technically did what they did to Thor as they took him out, it wasn't technically their fault. At the end of the day, Askeladd was just doing his job, and you can't really be upset with a man that was just doing his job. He didn't put any hatred or anything towards Thor. He wasn't doing it out of, you know, being malicious or anything. He's not a good dude, but he didn't do it to just do it. So the main person that honestly Thorfinn should be focusing his anger on is Floki, or, you know, the original Jorn Vikings and stuff that kind of caused this entire situation. So it's not necessarily Askeladd that caused it. I don't think that's probably ever going to, you know, ever change the opinion of Thorfinn when it comes to Askeladd, but that's my personal 2 cents on it. But, he trains, and majority of this episode is kind of like a training montage, honestly. And it's a very subtle, hidden training montage, because normally it's like right up in your face, but you kind of see how this kid, he starts off as someone that's just driven by anger, but then reality sets in, and I think not many series necessarily do this properly. I've seen a lot of manga and anime that have a character want to get vengeance against someone that's done them wrong, but then, you know, we don't get to see the little nitty-gritty stuff that they have to go through since they're technically on their own, and, you know, they have to deal with the problems that they face in the real world. For instance, Thorfinn, he's by himself. No one's there to really watch over him and make sure he's safe. He has food every single night. He doesn't have anyone to watch over him. And even, you know, these pirates, these bandits that, you know, attacked them and all that, even though they're not going after Thorfinn, they left him alone. They didn't really even help him at all. Some did slightly offer help, but overall, it wasn't, like, really, like, major help. It wasn't anything that was like, hey, you can join us or whatever. So Thorfinn was pretty much tasked to defend himself, like, if, you know, make sure he was okay by himself, like, nobody else is going to make sure he was in proper health. So he had to hunt food by himself, he had to gain shelter, he had to be able to make fire by himself, he had to be able to learn how to train by himself. No one trained him, there was no trainers that found him, which I think was the biggest part about this, because most of the time when you see a character go through, let's say, a training arc, usually a sensei or something pops up and they have to learn, but that's not what happened. Thorfinn doesn't have anyone, so he had to teach himself, learn slowly by himself to get to the point where he may be able to challenge Askeladd at the end of the episode. Obviously, it didn't work out, which I'll talk about, but I really like the nitty-gritty details of just seeing him slowly overcoming the problems in the wild before he could even get to the point where he can kind of slowly start training himself to kind of face him. So anyways, let's talk about Thorfinn's character and what we can see that he got from his father. He definitely got honor, and he definitely got, I guess, the ability to not be a coward. Because he had the chance to potentially kill Askeladd in this episode. Now, Askeladd was obviously awake, and I highly doubt he would just let it happen, and he would let, you know, Thorfinn do whatever he wanted, but technically, Thorfinn did have a chance. He was unaware that Askeladd was awake at that moment, so for all he knew, he could have taken the man out that, you know, took down his father in that moment. But he didn't. And the reason why he didn't do that was because he has honor. He wants to properly defeat Askeladd in a duel. You know, a trial by combat or something. Be able to take him down without, you know, being a coward. Because if he takes him down in a duel, it kind of symbolizes a lot. It symbolizes that he has surpassed his father, or he's in the realm of his father, but also he can get vengeance for his father because he can defeat Askeladd in the exact same way that his father defeated him, but this time actually bring him down and finish him for good. And I do like the little motivation we got at the end of the episode that kind of explains where the story is going to be going. So for this point onward, it seems like the only way that Thorfinn is going to be able to properly get a duel that, you know, Askeladd's going to accept is if Thorfinn actually gets, like, known in a war. If he becomes like a Viking or whatever, he gets known on the battlefield, he gets, like, noticed and stuff, then Askeladd will accept his challenge for a duel. Until then, the duels are off the table. The first two duels were freebies, and the next duel actually will legitimately be the duel that he wants, and Askeladd will probably really try to bring him down. So there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to, because there's things I was guessing. I was assuming that maybe Thorfinn was going to travel with Askeladd and just go off on his ship or whatever, even if he hated him, but that did not happen, obviously, so he's gonna have to join his own group or whatever, probably join the Yorm Knights or something or Yorm Vikings, my bad, to be able to build up credibility to eventually face him. So we got our objective, and it may not be anything like crazy in terms of, let's say, I want to become the king or queen or change the world or whatever, but I do like the simplistic goals within a series because it's realistic, and it makes sense for the character to actually want that. So, trying to think, what else is there really to discuss? I guess let's talk about Askeladd's character. Now, I've already discussed that he isn't necessarily straight up evil guy. He's not a good guy, but he isn't necessarily, like, bad either. Because we see multiple instances throughout this episode to where he could have taken out Thorfinn instantly. he could have gotten rid of the problem. And you would think someone that is just an annoying brat or whatever, you know, he would instantly be taken out, dealt with. Because we see that they raided a village within the episode, and they didn't care at all. They were dragging around people, throwing them in piles and stuff. They did not care whatsoever, which proved that, you know, they're not good people. These people that, you know, did what they did to Forrest, they're not good people, and they're never going to be. But they do have certain morals to them. Even if they're twisted, there is some morals there, especially with how he didn't want to harm Thorfinn. And I don't think it was necessarily he didn't want to harm Thorfinn because he was a kid, but I think it was because of just how much respect he had for Forrest as a person. With that fight, Askeladd did say something that was very suspicious. He said, "Why don't you become our leader?" And he was dead serious, asking Forrest to literally lead them. So that meant that in his heart, he truly wanted to figure out a way to not actually harm Forrest and let him live, but obviously that did not happen. But it shows that he had a lot of respect. And also when the boy charged him and he knocked him down, it proved that he also was respecting the terms that he made with Forrest, even if Forrest was already dead and he couldn't necessarily fight to keep those terms in check. So it showed that he did have a shred of honor to him. And seeing how he didn't necessarily straight up, you know, get rid of Thorfinn also proves that he respects Forrest to a point to not get rid of his bloodline. So him keeping him alive in the duels and then challenging him like he did him and said, like, you know, come back when you actually have credibility, that means that he definitely respects him to a degree. At least Forrest he respects. I mean, he's applying that to the son because the son has potential to be a very great warrior and turn around and one day give him a challenge. There's just a lot to Askeladd's character, and I think that in terms of all the characters we've gotten so far, I think he's the most complex character because there's just so much hidden behind, you know, the mask that he wields as like the leader of his group that I think that one day we need to find out. I think there's a lot more to him than just him being a pirate, raider, whatever. I just think that he has definitely a darker story to him. So I think that's pretty much about it. It's a good episode, obviously. I mean, animation art, great, as usual. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.